Town Council meeting for November 15th. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I can't see him. I know he's too short. No, he's camouflaged.
Yvonne, can we have a roll call?
Present.
Here.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Chris Lytle, sorry. He's absent.
Thank you, Yvonne. Next item on the agenda is claims. We are here to seek approval of claims APVs number 25788 to 25834. Do I hear a motion to approve those claims?
I'll motion to approve.
I second
There's
that
a
motion.
second. Okay, is there any discussion on any of those claims? If not, all those in favor of approving claims 25788 to 25834, vote by saying aye.
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 Those opposed by the same sign? Approved. At this time, we'll open the floor to public comments, 3-minute time limit per person for items on the agenda only. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes, and the first item is the approval of the town council minutes for November 1st. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes as presented in our backup materials for the regular meeting of November 1st.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion on those minutes? Additions? Deletions? All those in favor of adopting the town council minutes for November 1st, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Then we have the adoption of the executive session minutes from November 1st. And do I hear a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
It's been approved in a second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Okay, next item on the agenda is the final reading of the food truck ordinance, continued from the last meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve food truck ordinance 101823? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it just because I have questions, so it can be discussed.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I have a question, but I'm just trying to get all the answers before I do anything on the food ordinance truck. So the issue exactly with the one that's parked out in front of the old liquor store, is that the one that made us all go on motion?
No. Well, I don't know what's being.
So the reason why we put this food ordinance together, bring this forward, is because we had that taco truck out in front of, is that what started all of this?
Well, it's what brought about the change, because in our old ordinance, it didn't give a time limit. But the one we've already passed does give a time limit. which nobody has enforced.
Okay,
And this ordinance just cleans up the one we already passed because some people had some questions about the wording, although Doug said the wording was already clear.
okay. So this is just putting a time limit on how long the food trucks can stay out there.
We've already got a resolution for that.
Okay,
This ordinance just defines it better.
okay. Thank you.
That nobody seems to enforce.
Well, it'll be enforced after this, correct?
I don't know.
It could be.
It could be. Any other discussion?
I will just state for the record, the reason that I will not be voting in favor of the ordinance as amended is because, and I've said this at prior meetings, I believe that, yes, it's a clarification, but it's also making it more restrictive than it currently is. And for that reason, I personally am not in favor of efforts to remove the one food truck that we have, who's come into town, obtained a permit, done everything that we've ever asked him to do. I'm not in favor of any initiative that would drive that food truck out of town. And that's why I'll vote against this particular ordinance.
Is that food truck tied to that building?
They lease the property.
So the owner of the liquor store leases the property to the food truck? Is that how that works? Okay. Who owns that property? Do we know?
Yeah,
It's
we
a-
all know who.
I don't know the name of the LLC,
Yeah.
but there's a company that owns that
All right.
property.
Do you represent that company in any way, shape, or form?
No, not currently.
At all? I didn't say currently. Do you represent that person with any legal actions in the past?
Not that company,
The owner of that company?
not that company.
Is if there's a conflict of interest in that and she leases that to that food truck, shouldn't you abstain from that vote?
Not that company.
My public comment and opinion on this is, as I raised the last meeting, is in continuing to find out more and more about dynamics behind the property and ownership and renting and the big gray area of what that is. And as far as there is no precedent in any other community to, I guess, put in a clause, should property be leased by a food truck or a traveling business, I guess, in the parking lot of a other business, it's all gray as gray can be. Also, public comment online, I do pay attention to, and I do see feedback, and I also feel the property as it is, or the food truck as it is, has kind of been put in a situation, I believe, by a lot of exceptions and clarifications. I guess I'm in favor of actually tabling this and giving some more time for reflection, letting the food truck stay as is now, and let the new council that's coming in January kind of make a decision on what they want this to look like in the future for the town, and what they want food trucks to be, the standards to be. And it's not an excuse to try to get out of it. It's just, we've been mulling over this for months. We have an ordinance that was passed that we're not enforcing, based on a lease of an entity which there's no
We don't
precedent.
get involved in leases. This is a food
Well,
truck
I
ordinance.
understand that. I understand that. People have brought up points.
Well, that's not a point.
Okay, well, I respect your opinion that that's not a point.
Okay, well, if there's no other discussion, we've got a motion on, to pass this food truck ordinance. All in favor of passing this food truck ordinance, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Oh,
and I'll abstain.
Okay, with that vote, it'll be tabled to the next meeting.
No, it was denied.
Oh, it was?
Oh, it was 2-1, I'm sorry. That's not a vote. You need 3 to take any action.
Correct. It fails for lack of quorum, majority.
Okay, let's move on. Approval of the health insurance policy for 2024. Yvonne?
Yeah, that's the information we talked about last meeting. I thought that I would be getting a lot more information, but I really have not. Apparently, when you keep the same policy and you just extend it into the next year, they give you a new number, but not any new paperwork. So basically, the information is as it was last time we talked about. There's an 8.59% price increase. That moves the deductible for an individual from $3,000 to $3,250, for the family from $6,000 to $6,500, and the out-of-pocket maximum went up with a little bit from $4,000 to $4,250 for an individual, from $8,000 to $8,500 for the family. And like I said, the prices went up by 8.59%, which last meeting, everybody seemed to think that that was a pretty good idea to keep it steady. So if we could, I'd like for you guys to vote on that, to approve that.
Thanks, Yvonne. Would anybody like to make a motion on our insurance, employee insurance for 2024?
I make a motion to approve the health insurance policy for 2024.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any other discussion on this?
Just to thank Yvonne again for looking into the options and making the recommendation that we stay with this program.
You're welcome. That wasn't much effort.
All those in favor of passing this insurance plan for 2024, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approved.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Review Technology Solutions Midwest 2024 Service Agreement with Scott Wells.
Thanks, Beth. Thank all of you guys for giving me that. So, bottom line is, for next year, even with the cost and stuff, base rates aren't changing, and costs are going to stay very similar. Due to some increased costs for services you guys do use, out of my control, there's going to be a small increase, it's 2% for the year. All things considered, for you guys and other towns, we work very hard to minimize those, because we know everybody's paying more for everything else, so it wouldn't be a problem at all. On the financial side, that's it. 2% increase. Things we're looking into for next year is, as I always do, looking to manage asset life cycle. There's going to be probably 2 or 3 years that I can see come in place. And everything else for next year is going to focus on cybersecurity. Pretty much all of our clients have asked us to kind of redouble efforts there for reasons obvious. So there's some cybersecurity things that we're looking into. If you'd like to discuss those in further detail, I mean, we're happy to go as deep as we like. Thank you.
Well, Scott, as I read your proposal, I mean, the hourly rate is remaining the same, and thank you for that. And like you said, the increase is just because of the other providers.
Right.
So,
Primarily, it's for backup services, cloud storage and licensing fees have both seen significant, almost doubling increase in costs for the 2 providers that we use over the course of the year. And that accounts for almost the entirety of that bill increase that we will be passing on.
thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the contract for TS Midwest as presented in our backup materials for next year.
Is there a second to that?
I second.
Any other discussion on the service agreement? Seems pretty reasonable to me, only a 2% increase.
Well, and that's only on the services.
That's what I mean.
That they're imposing the charges,
right.
not TS Midwest.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving this managed technology service agreement, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Same sign. Next on the agenda is Keystone Software License Agreement, addendum, voice maintenance agreement. I don't know, is voice maintenance the same as Keystone? or-
Yeah, they use different terminology in here. So, basically, up until now, voice systems is the software we use, the Keystone Fund, Keystone Billing, Keystone Assets, and backup programs, and we have access to the payroll that we no longer use, but we have access to that information should we need to look back at that. They have historically done yearly contracts for each one of these units, and they want to go to a agreement that basically it automatically renews. I hate automatic renewals, but in this case it makes sense, because in this case you're going to pick a software, you're going to stick with it for a long time for consistency, and so you can look back at historic records. As the town, you've used this since 2007 or somewhere thereabouts, so it's really nice that we can go back and look at those records. There are other software systems out there. I can't necessarily say that they're better. This one frustrates me at times, but I'm sure that any other software system will frustrate me too, because it's the way, the state board requires you to lock down things. As soon as you print something, it's set in stone. You can't go back. Like, if anybody's familiar with QuickBooks, you can go back and tweak something, kind of make a quick change. Government doesn't want you to do that, logically so. So I think this software is probably as good as it comes at the moment, and using this, automatic renewal doesn't bother me in this situation. So I had Doug look it over. He said there wasn't anything in there that was, concerning. Am I saying that right, Doug? You didn't find anything concerning, right?
There's no issues with legal form.
So, yeah, I'm just asking for your approval, so that we can go ahead and have Clint sign this, and I can send it back off to them, and, we can continue doing what we're doing.
What was the percentage of increase in?
That's not what this necessarily says. This is just saying, hey, from now we're going to do things differently, and we're going to automatically renew. I am sure that when there's a price increase, they'll let us know. Also, this has a statement in there that we can cancel it, if we decide to go with a different software company.
You were on 1-year terms, so you had to renew every year, and it just added more process to it. Now it's an automatic renewal, but you still have the option to cancel at the end of your term.
Is there a motion on the voice maintenance agreement addendum?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion so that it's ripe for discussion.
It's been approved and seconded. Now it's open for discussion. I guess my question is the addendum part. Is it changing from several different things all into one group, or?
I sent it all to you. It's a 2-page agreement. It's in your backup materials. It's just stating that they're going to an automatic renewal. So basically, in my sense is it says, hey, you're going to do this again next year unless you let us know that you don't want to do that.
Okay.
I am hoping, I'm assuming, that I'll still get an email saying, hey, your renewal's coming up, this is the new price, and I can put it in front of the board anytime. If that's not the case, I will have a little conversation with the owners of Boyce, whom I know the president well, so.
But Yvonne, right now Keystone's working well.
Yeah, as well as any, software can, It's great sometimes and not so great other times. Sometimes I say a bad word to it, but for the most part,
I
it's
guess
working.
maybe a better question would be, you want to keep Keystone at this time?
For the time being, yeah.
Okay, that helps me.
Thanks, Yvonne. All those in favor of approving the Boyce Maintenance Agreement Addendum, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Approved.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the department reports. And Chief, you're up.
Absolutely nothing. I'm just kidding.
We've seen you all over the
Yeah,
news and
we have
Facebook,
been
so.
busy. We're working quite a few
Running
cases
through
right now. Of
cornfields.
course, everybody probably saw on the news, probably saw the fugitive that got arrested by two of my younger officers. Simple traffic stop turned into a foot pursuit that turned into mutual aid from Sugar Creek Fire Department, Hancock County Sheriff's Department, Greenfield Police Department, and my officers. We're able to apprehend a gentleman who's been wanted out of Hamilton County for about a year now. So we're also working with our Carmel PD right now too, to get some back information on the gentleman we discussed with. Proud of everybody involved. My actual officers took the initiative to make entry into the cornfield,
Yeah.
which was a scary thing, but
Yeah,
I guess it's kind of
We saw.
what we signed up for. So I'm very proud of those two young men, Officer Whitaker, Officer Bowman.
Yeah.
Good job. So if you guys get a chance to see them, let them know. We're awful proud of them. I think the whole town is. So another bad guy off the street.
What else you got, Bob?
Other than that,
Jim?
Well, I didn't get to chase any bad guys, but I did go to the Hancock County Community Foundation. If you ever get a chance to Thrive Center, it's a new center there.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's a wonderful place there. I had a meeting there yesterday with the sewer districts, and then today, Yvonne and I went for the planning part of it. We had a couple guys here from Cordsville and Yorktown. It's just a kind of a breeding place for community leadership, and they do a really nice job at this facility. Other than that, Little Ridge is kind of moving through. Dirt's dry, and they've been holding in that pond and cutting streets, so I'd say probably here in the next 30 days, we'll see some curbs and what the permits.
You have anything from the street department, Jim?
He's got COVID.
Oh, God.
Steve's out COVID.
Oh,
Well, we appreciate that he's not here then.
You too, yeah.
yeah, we want to thank Steve for not being here. What else you got, Yvonne?
One more thing, I got a request from the Daily Reporter to let them know of our upcoming meetings for the town council next year. I know we always do the first and the third Wednesday. I'm gonna suggest a change in that for January, and I'll explain why. We're gonna have a whole new council and Bill. But there's newly elected officials training, and the boot camp for that overlaps with the meeting on the 17th, if we schedule it like that. In order to give the new council members the chance to go to the boot camp and do their networking activity in the evening, my suggestion is to maybe move that meeting from the 17th through the 24th. Considering you have 5 Wednesdays in January, it just shortens, between the first and the second meeting, you'll now have 3 Wednesdays, and then you'll just have 2 before you have your next one in February. So I don't know if that's a good
Well,
idea, but I just want to
Won't
put
the
that
new
out.
town council be able to move that meeting in their first meeting?
They possibly can, but I need to give the Daily Reporter information, so.
No, we don't work for
We
them.
don't care.
We don't work for them.
Daily Reporter can find out after the first
That's
of the
what I
year.
say, we don't work for them.
Well, it's not that you work for the Daily Reporter, but it is
What
part
is
of your
it?
public notice
Okay,
to the community when you're gonna have your meetings. That doesn't mean that it cannot be decided on the first, meeting in January, but I thought I would put it out there as a potential change. You don't have to do it, you don't have to decide, but
well, does anybody want to make a motion on that?
No, I don't want to decide for the new council.
I do. I'll make a motion that the second meeting in January be on the 24th instead of the 17th. And then otherwise, the rest of the months, unless changed, would be the first and the third Wednesday.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? The only thing I say is I'd rather have the new town council start changing their meetings at the first of the year, not us. Any other discussion?
They can change it after the first of the year if they decide differently, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my concern is so that you can notify the paper, and that way, well, whether you like it or not, you do have to notify them because they're on the list of people who have requested notice, so they have to be notified one time for the entire year. I mean, it is subject to change, but at least we can do our obligation in notifying them. That's why I made the motion.
Well, this is discussion, and as a council member, I have the ability to call on people in the audience. So, Terry Reed, do you have a problem moving it from the 17th to the 24th?
Absolutely not.
Ethan Maple, do you have a problem moving it? Chad Mullin, do you have a problem moving it?
Do not.
Ryan Hartley, you have a problem moving it?
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion?
She forgot it.
He already said. He
I
made the
I made the
motion.
motion.
I assumed based on that motion.
I won't back up now.
Okay, all right.
Any, all those in favor of us moving their meeting, vote by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Aye. 3-1, it's moved.
thank you.
Anything else you guys want us to do for you? I'll let you guys decide that.
I can tell by his face during that one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, next item on the agenda is public comments. We give anybody that wants to speak 5 minutes to talk about any topic. The floor is open.
Gil Wagner, 446 South 600 West. Clint, you mentioned that we have a food truck ordinance that nobody's enforcing. I've said this before, that the food truck ordinance that I believe was approved in April only had one vote on it, so there was never a second vote, so technically it never was able to be enforced because it didn't pass second vote. Also, there was a lot of confusion in the BZA meeting tonight about what they were supposed to be doing. There were different notices in the paper and from those posted in the library, the post office, and the town hall. So you all may be wanting to look into that as to how to make that a much smoother transition, I guess, or make it better so they know what they're doing when they come to the meeting. So, thank you.
Speaking on that, Doug, does the town need to notify you of what's going to be on the public notice? Because evidently the public notice didn't read the same as the notice in the paper.
So
Well, it didn't, because we all saw it.
the special exception is one where the applicant provides the notice to the individuals and then the paper, and then the town posted notice to the regular notice on town hall and in the other places. So there wasn't communication between the two of them. Notice just requires that people have a general understanding of what's going to be heard. And while it may not have said the same thing, I think that people understood generally what was being discussed. But yes, town hall needs to coordinate with the applicant, and if I need to be the intermediary for that, that can be the case as well. But that's why that happened, was
Okay.
applicant made their notice and then town hall posted separately.
Yeah, I would think they need to be coordinated, but I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. Anybody else want to speak? Okay. Oh, you got somebody.
All right, Eric Crop, 125 East Main Street. Kudos to the police officers. Obviously, that was an awesome video, by the way. The only request I have though is if we can get a little police patrol on Bittner right after school. It's literally like being at Speedrome coming from the school going north. They're zooming across the pub parking lot. If somebody ends up in my yard or my house, it's not going to be good. And it's getting, I mean, they're squealing tire. I mean, they're coming around the corner so fast, and then there's, they're trying to decide whether they're going to go further east to go to the next intersection and try to get out to avoid Bittner. But eventually somebody's going to get hurt or killed. Not by me, but it's not pretty. So if we could just kind of get a little bit of police officer action, that would be great. Somehow. So, yeah, I've been passed twice on Bittner. I try to maintain the speed limit. Yeah. That's not a very good place to be passed. Okay.
They're trying to beat those buses.
Yes, we are.
Those kids are resourceful.
It's not just the kids.
Okay, everybody's resourceful. Anybody else? Okay, now it's time for council comments. My only comment is I want to congratulate everybody that won in the election, and good luck on the council. Not saying you'll need it, but you probably will. That's all I've got to say. Brandy?
I just want to clarify, despite what you read on social media sometimes, the council does not have the decision-making as to whether or not a certain business comes to town or not, whether a national chain or a local chain or an independent mom and pop. And every time something happens or there's an announcement of a business moving to town, it's our fault or it's not our fault, or we did it or we didn't do it, or we knew about it and kept it from everybody or whatever. And I just want to clarify, in the latest breaking news story about Starbucks, I found out because a friend of mine in Greenfield messaged me and said, hey, what about New Pal getting Starbucks? I'm like, oh, well, thanks for letting me know. And it was in the newspaper. So I just want to clarify, not everything we read on social media is accurate. But well preparation for those getting ready to come and take these seats. Just want to clarify that it's not our fault. Every time something happens in this town. So, but I wish anybody coming to this town to do business the best of luck. So just want to clarify. Sometimes we read about it in the paper too. So.
Thank you, Brandy.
You're
Anything
welcome.
else?
No, I think that's good for today.
Bill?
I read something in the newspaper.
Uh-oh.
There was an article that says that the county and the school corporation intend to approach NDOT and request that a traffic signal be installed at Bittner and 52. And when I read that in the newspaper, I wondered, Why isn't the town included in that? I believe that the county, the town, and the school corporation all together should approach NDOT to install a traffic signal at that intersection. And I think that the town has a vested interest. It may or may not make any difference to NDOT who is making the request, but I certainly would like the town to join the effort to have a traffic signal put there, and maybe that'll help a little bit. Maybe not as much as a police officer, but at least it's a step in the right direction. Yeah, so I think the town should be involved in those discussions so that at least NDOT knows as well that the town's in favor of it. That's all I have.
Angie?
It has been officially on this meeting date a year ago today that we had issues with a citizen in the audience having his phone taken pictures of during a council meeting. We told this citizen that we would look into it, and there's still nothing. We're wrapping up here for the end of our council period, and I don't want it to be lingering over into the next one, and I think that Dale deserves some answers. Have we heard anything from the individual who took pictures of that phone?
I haven't.
Pictures were sent to Councilmember Bill Niemeyer. Does he know who sent the images of Dale's phone?
I'm not going to answer your questions. I'm prepared to move forward for the better of the town, not dwell on things from a year ago.
Dale, would you like for me to drop the issue?
Hardly up to you. I can wait for the engineers to show up. I'll ask them myself.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Angie.
Mm-hmm.
With that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourn.